All right. We made it to episode 7. Isn't that amazing? All you guys that said we couldn't make it to episode 4. Here we are, episode 7. What you going to do about it? Yeah. Listen, today's sponsor is brought to you by who? Brittany?
Jonah's Whale Watching Services.
What do they do over at Jonah's Whale Watching Services, Britt?
They watch whales.
Sounds like a fun sponsor.
Yeah, great guy.
Well, anyway, I'm excited.
She got swallowed.
How are you guys doing? Listen, it is May 1st.
It is.
We got through April.
Listen.
April was a terrible month.
Yeah, 3 days away from May the 14th.
I felt like April just, went by.
It did go by real quick, I think, but we were pretty busy all throughout April, ministry-wise. But they just announced Wednesday. Today's Friday. They just announced Wednesday that churches can reopen in Kentucky. What are your thoughts? May 20th.
I'm excited.
I'm excited.
I think we've been preparing for this because we've been saying this for a couple weeks now. That we think that it's going to happen sooner than later. Stuff was going to start to open up slowly but surely, but it was going to open up. And now that they actually have a date set, I think it gives us, it helps us a lot because we're able to plan, for the future.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and it's tricky because they said, hey, House of Worship can open on May 20th, but they gave us no stipulation. They gave us no guidelines on how that is going to look.
Who can
and
come
so
in,
who can be there, how many people can be there. So we're trying to balance we're trying to figure out how we can do it safely, how we don't. Because here's the thing, and I heard a pastor say this the other day, and I agree 100%. It's not that I'm afraid of the virus, right? I'm not afraid of the virus. It's not that I'm afraid that I'm going to die from the virus. I'm not really worried about most of the members if they die from the virus because I know where we're going to end up, right? We're all Christians. We're saved. We're going to go to heaven. But what I don't want is us spreading the virus at this church into our community, into our lost community, and then lost people dying and going to hell because of the virus, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, having a negative effect. Because it could have you could take a turn and have a negative effect.
So it's not that I'm worried about us dying from it. I'm worried about the community dying from it and not hearing about Jesus. So we're trying to be patient. We're trying to take this as slow. We're going to actually not open up on May 20th because it's a Wednesday, but we're actually going to open up on May 24th. That's that Sunday. It looks like right now we're going to do multiple services. We probably won't do Sunday school or any of our small groups. We won't do youth group on Wednesday nights. We'll probably keep Wednesdays virtual for a little while. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I'm excited to see how it's going to play out because I'm excited to see how some of these people react when it all opens back up. Because we're seeing, we talk about it, seeing some bloopers of people's online services. I'm kind of seeing how rusty they're going to be when they get back.
Well, and I'll say this. We have, the way that we've been growing over the past year, this is actually probably going to be a good practice for us to start doing multiple services and seeing how that's going to play out, what the best way to do that. So this actually may be a benefit for us as a church as we try to figure out, can we do multiple services? Does it make sense? Does it work? And so I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
I'm excited.
I am too.
We don't have an email today, but, it's all right.
No email work. Where can we?
But if you have an email, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, comments about an episode, ideas for a new episode, you can send us over that email at preachingyoung, no caps, no spaces, @gmail.com.
I'm excited. Listen, God has been blessing us as a church. Even during this time, we have been just doing some amazing things. We have been using our outreach team to do a lot of outreach in our community. Just this week, we've fed 33 extra meals for some essential workers in our community. Last week we did 45 meals for essential workers. I think we're going to try to do another round of meals for some more essential workers next week. So it's just,
it's been encouraging to see.
It's been encouraging to see.
I will say. And participating in it has been also very fun.
Wait, did you guys talk about Love Your Neighbor Week already?
No, we did not.
Oh my goodness.
That's what we're in right now.
Guys.
Go ahead.
Currently.
This past week, we as Trinity launched # Love Your Neighbor Week.
Woo!
And it has been amazing.
Why have we been doing it?
Why have we been doing it? Because we're in our # History Makers.
Yes.
Don't forget the hashtag.
Sorry,
History Maker
guys.
Week. We've been in a series called History Maker. We're trying to be history makers for Jesus Christ. And first week we did a prayer week. We prayed for different things every week.
Which was also very successful.
Was very successful. Everybody enjoyed it. This week we're doing Love Your Neighbor Week. What are some things that you guys did for your neighbors?
Amazing.
Well, this yesterday actually we made some
cookies.
and delivered to some old people on Brittany Street.
And we also gave them a flower.
And some flowers.
So.
No, that's
'Cause
really
it's
nice.
spring, you know.
And we gave them a card.
And a
So
card.
just
And a
little
card,
things to
of
let
course.
them know that, hey, you're appreciated.
Yeah.
We love you guys. And we said this in a video earlier this week. We cannot, spread the gospel right if we cannot love our neighbors
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Because they're our main people.
That video can be found on our Facebook page.
Because I will never hire a landscaper who cannot take care of his own backyard. If I drive by that guy's house and his yard is nasty and the weeds are high, I don't want to hire him to do my landscaping.
I never thought of it that way.
Was
Yeah.
that an analogy?
Yes, it is an analogy.
it
Yes,
was. It was
exactly.
a great one.
So we want to make sure that our yard is mowed first before we start mowing other people's.
Amen, brother. I like that.
So anyway, and then this week that's coming up, we're actually going to be doing Thanking Essential Worker Week.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, we've already got something planned.
Bless. It's called Bless
Bless
Essential Worker. And so we're going to try to bless an essential worker in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of like love your neighbor, but we're doing it for specifically for someone who's an essential worker. Your grocery store workers, your auto workers, your healthcare workers. We're just trying to get the church involved and making sure that we're doing outreach as well. So it's been a fun time.
Let them know they're appreciated.
And the one thing that I've really appreciated with our church is our church has been consistent with outreach from the very, very first day. We were blessed to an extent because 2 weeks before the pandemic happened and they shut down our churches, I had a whole big old table set out in the lobby with a bunch of volunteer opportunities. One of those was our outreach team. And so we literally just created our outreach team 2 weeks before all this happened. So when everything kind of shut down, our outreach team went right to work.
And they've been doing a great job.
Yes, they have. So I've been excited
Staying
about
involved.
that. So we've been trying every week to do something with our outreach team so that our community is being blessed. We just want to bless as many people as we can during this time. And I've been really excited and I thank God for that. Because here's the reality. I know there's a lot of churches that are just now, we're coming into our third month of being in this lockdown, quarantine, whatever you want to call it, social distancing time. And I know there's a lot of churches that are just now going, oh, okay, maybe we should try to do something. Maybe we should try to do outreach.
If you're doing it now, you missed the train.
And I always said, this has exposed weaknesses and strengths of churches, right? So if you have a bad time communicating with your church throughout the year before all this happened, if you were having a tough time communicating, then you're going to have a terrible time communicating with them now. And if you're,
And it shows.
yeah, if you don't know how to do outreach, if you weren't doing any outreach before, right, you're going to have a hard time doing outreach during this time. And again, it does show. And so I'm glad they're finally getting around to doing it, but now I feel like they're just doing it because there's other churches that are doing it, and it's almost like we got to do it just to save face.
Yeah.
And I don't like that, right?
No.
Well, one thing I hope that the other churches do learn from this is that they take it over until when things start getting back to normal. They don't just stop doing outreach just because there's not a pandemic going on in the world. They need to prioritize outreach in their churches.
But that takes a mental decision, right? Which is, why are we doing this outreach? Are we doing it for the publicity? Are we doing it to get our name out there? Are we doing it to whatever? Or are we going to sit there and say, you know what, God has called us to be the hands and feet of Jesus, so we're going to do that. We're going to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Or are we just doing it for publicity? You know, a lot of these, when I see like yard signs, for example, I go, is that just to put your name out there and say, hey, we're thanking essential workers and, you know, it's from our church? Or, I mean, what's the purpose? Because I think essential workers would rather have a lunch, right?
Yeah.
They would rather have someone sit there and give them a card and say, you know, we're actually thinking about you. We actually are praying directly for this company, as opposed to just a sign in the.
Yeah.
Put your name on it.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, I think everybody likes feeling important.
Yes.
Individually, you know, especially if you're targeting directly. If you buy them lunch, they feel special. They're like, oh, this.
And our essential workers, I tell you, their pay hasn't gone up. They're not getting hazardous pay. A lot of them are working more hours than they ever should be working, especially for their pay. And I don't really see them complaining.
No.
So it's amazing to me that they aren't getting a break from work. They're not sitting there. They're risking their lives to be in the public with other people, and I mean they're just killing it. So for us as a church, we want to make sure that we're blessing them and showing that we do appreciate them. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. Bless your neighbor. No, bless your essential worker. Bless your essential worker.
That was this week. So if you're listening and you haven't heard about this so far, do it.
Yeah,
do
so-
with us.
so do
Join
that.
us. Bless them essential
So it's been good. And then I'll tell you something else that was exciting. Today, just before this podcast started, I just recorded a baccalaureate sermon. So Pelham County has always done this for as long as I remember. It's one of the things I love about our community is we have a baccalaureate for our seniors, right? It's the Sunday night before graduation, I believe is normally how they do it. And literally the whole community comes together in a big auditorium at the high school, and we have worship. The seniors do worship, and then we have one of the local pastors preaches. And so I was asked to preach at this baccalaureate. It's virtual, so it's going to look
interesting.
I don't know how it's going to look, but
Should be good.
so I did my part and I preached, and then my sister is the president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, so she's been sending me a lot of the videos that they've been doing, some of the prayer and Bible readings, and I think it's going to be cool when it gets all put together.
I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah.
I am jealous. Our school didn't have one of those.
No.
So, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever since you told us about it at first.
Yeah.
I was like, I wish, because it's hard to keep church and school separated,
Yeah.
by law. So like anything you can do to bring students together with the church and all that is nice.
And our churches have helped us in so many ways. Our churches have helped us in so many ways. Really, really stay connected with our students, and I think now more than ever, right? Now more than ever. Our seniors are upset, the seniors are depressed, the seniors are worried about the future, and it's probably one of the reasons I'm blessed right now to be able to do it, because I'm pumped, I'm excited. I think this, even though we're going through this pandemic, I still think this is the greatest time to be alive as a human being in the history of human. We have more technology.
Did you say human?
Yeah. We have more technology, more, we have more everything in this world than ever before. More opportunities to be successful and prosper. So for me, I was glad that I was able to preach a little bit of hope and encouragement to our
And the seniors needed it, I think, more than ever, because
Yeah.
looking back, I couldn't, I would have enjoyed not going to school, but like, and missing all the senior festivities and like having graduation and stuff like that, having prom, and it would have been,
But
I don't know how to do it.
here's the thing, those are all just traditions.
Yep.
And this is one of the things I told them, that, those are traditions, right? So don't get caught up in the traditions, right? Don't sit there and live for your graduation. Don't live for your glory days of high school, because you will live a miserable life. I know guys who still live in their high school days. They're just like, that's all they want to talk about. It's like, man, remember in high school when I used to be awesome at intramural basketball? It's like, no, man. So
Talk about
anyway,
yourself, because you act like you had like your glory days back
he's
in
going
high
to talk
school.
about high school and
Oh, about you
Oh,
being good at basketball.
Oh, wait, no.
I am
You
good
missed-
at basketball.
you
It's
missed the
usually
point.
college.
Oh,
Usually
Oh,
it's
college.
Collegiate athlete.
I'm a collegiate
Oh,
athlete.
that's what he's
That's
talking
something
about.
that will stick with me forever, because
Oh,
I'm just a
okay.
collegiate athlete. I'm a good athletic person. Once you're a collegiate athlete, which you guys don't know, that's why you're probably confused. You don't know about collegiate athlete. But
Speaking
anyway,
of college, though, Brittany just took her last college test today. She's
Did you
officially
really?
done
Yeah, I'm
with college.
officially done with
Officially.
college.
how crazy is it that Saturday was supposed to be your graduation?
I know.
I know, it is really weird, actually.
It is bizarre.
But it's okay. It feels
What
weird,
are
because I'm
you?
like,
Go ahead.
I'm just done now? Am I just like
Yeah,
done?
it is.
I told her that
So
this morning.
weird.
I said, it's probably weird because from however long, 4 years old, is that when you start school? I guess somewhere around there. Till she's now 21. It's like, what the heck? You've been in school your entire life and now you're doing nothing.
Okay, but
Weird, huh?
welcome to the reality of life.
Yeah, exactly.
My sophomore year, I got handed a piece of paper in the mail, and I opened that up from my college. I was like, oh, cool, I got a letter from my college. It said 2 words, academic suspension. It said, don't come back. You can't skip classes and play basketball all day, Abram, as a collegiate athlete,
Rock
and
band. I think
expect
you said
to
you
be.
played rock band.
We did. We played rock band at night. We did basketball all day from like 8 in the morning till about 5. We'd stop for dinner, and then we'd go to the dorm room at night, and we would play rock band video game in our dorm rooms until wee hours of the night. We'd sleep in, miss class. It was a stupid time, but it was a lot of fun. But then they put me on academic suspension. So I get that's what you're saying, but this is the thing that we have to understand, especially you seniors. Any seniors listening to this, that's life.
Yeah.
You don't get to graduate everything. You don't get to have a pat on your back when you accomplish something.
Yeah.
Right? As a church, we're doing so much good, and does you think I get any credit for it? No! I don't get no credit for it. Ain't nobody pat me on my back. They go, all right, Abe, what's the next thing you're going to do? but I deliver. I'm the Michael Jordan. Talking about Michael Jordan.
I haven't watched that.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone says it's amazing.
Well, I'll have to give you the background story. I purchased a television with some of this stimulus money. I ain't gonna lie. I used it to get a big old TV.
Well, I mean,
What's
go
for
back
it?
That's what Trump
Yeah.
said. Trump said pour back into the economy. Anyway, I bought a big old TV and I put it
How big?
up.
You remember the size?
I wouldn't tell you because I might get judged on the interwebs. I put it up and anyway, we just purchased a Hulu Live as well.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we had Fubo. I don't know if you know Fubo.
What is Fubo?
Fubo is the greatest. I miss a little bit. I miss it, but we had Fubo. Fubo was amazing. Had all the channels, Discovery Channel, because I like watching Deadliest Catch.
Oh, gotcha.
But because we used to have a Roku, but
What a weird show.
this is what we call a smart TV.
The one you have now?
Yeah, the new one, smart TV, and
It's got all that on it, doesn't it?
it has all of it on there. But Fubo, Fubo it's not equipped to be on there. And so we had to cancel Fubo, and then Hulu Live is the same price. And,
I don't know if I would trust a TV network called Fubo.
well, it's pretty good. But anyway, so if you have Roku or whatever, and you don't want to get Hulu Live, you get Fubo. But it's the same price, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But we got Hulu Live. And,
Do you ever think it's funny that all these people that like cancel their cable and then like buy like Netflix, Hulu, Roku, all this stuff? Is that you? Are you one of those
that's
people?
me, yes.
But you're spending more money.
I guarantee we are. I guarantee we are. But that my wife wants to feel like we are saving money by cutting the cord. And I said, well, if we cut the cord, I still want all my shows. So we've compromised. But anyway, on Hulu Live is ESPN. And The Last Dance, which is
yeah.
Michael Jordan's documentary, for those people that don't know, is on there. Now, I love Michael Jordan. I know for a fact, because I grew up watching Michael Jordan, that I've always known that he was the greatest basketball player ever. I knew he was better than LeBron James. I knew he was better than Kobe, and I love Kobe. Kobe's my favorite ball player.
Rest in peace.
But Kobe's number 2 to Michael Jordan. And this documentary really emphasizes the greatness of Michael Jordan. Now, here's the thing, and I want you guys to really pay attention to this, because I feel like you guys are... I feel like I'm carrying the show today.
Listen, we're gonna tell you what's happening.
Well, let me tell you this. I did not realize, because I know all of Michael Jordan's accolades. I know all of his
How many rings he got?
6. I know all of his.
Pop quiz,
I know
just
all of his.
What's his middle name?
I said his accolades,
Accolades, not. Golly,
not
come on.
personal biography.
Anyway, go on.
Well,
But I'm saying I know that he's done all these records and all this stuff. So I always knew that he was great in that aspect. Because I was born in '88, so I wasn't paying too much attention to basketball as a young child.
You're old.
But here's the thing. I did not realize till I watched this documentary that it took him 7 years before he got his first championship.
Long time.
7 years. 7 years of ups and downs. 7 years of being the greatest ball player but not winning. 7 years. Now here's the thing about this. We as a society want things to happen immediately.
I think we've become accustomed to it now.
We want it done. I mean, we want things done. I don't know why I'm talking to seniors. I hope some seniors listen to this. I should have plugged it during my sermon. Seniors are going to get out of high school, and even Brittany maybe, from college, and they're going to want immediately a job. They want all these things. One of my college professors at KCU actually gave me the greatest advice. He said, Abram, do not expect to live like your parents as soon as you graduate, because your parents... They go on vacations now, they do all this stuff, but it took them 30 years after they graduated to get to this point.
Yeah.
But us, don't expect that as soon as you get out of college.
Right.
Anyway, so...
That's good advice.
And this is with everything. So people want to rush in church, like your church ain't growing fast enough, people aren't responding to you well enough, but just give it time, right? Because here's what had to happen before he got his first championship. There had to be, I think he went through 3 coaches before he got it. I think there was one coach, Stan, Doug Collins, and then Phil Jackson. So there was 3 coaches before he could get his championship. They had to get Scottie Pippen. They had to get Dennis Rodman. They had to make all these different moves. I think they even had 2 different general managers that had to go through. They had to go through in order to get this exact team that could get a championship for the Chicago Bulls. So God works in the same way. God has to move puzzle pieces in your life before you can get to that.
And during those puzzle pieces, it seems like you're asking questions like, what the heck's happening?
Yep.
Why is this happening?
Yep.
It should happen now, but...
And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something else. So they go 3 right back to back, 3 championships back to back.
I believe they call it a three-peat.
And then he goes on a hiatus while he plays baseball for about 18 months.
what exactly is a hiatus?
anyway, his baseball
He
career
takes
was
a
a
break.
flop. His baseball career was
Wait, I
a
thought Michael
flop.
Jordan played basketball.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wow. Watch Space Jam, and you actually will get caught up on.
Space Jam is a good movie for that because it
I know,
does
it hits
it.
on everything.
Yeah, it hits on both.
He's actually
It's his
playing
whole career.
baseball in the beginning
Yes,
of the
he
movie.
is. Yes, he is.
His dad died. His dad always wanted him to be a baseball player,
I'll watch it.
His kids
I'll
play
just watch
baseball.
so he
it.
ended up playing baseball. Anyway,
Still wasn't very good at it though.
was not very good, and they showed that in Space Jam as
Yes,
well.
they do.
But my point is this: even in the 90, I think it was 97, 98 season, or they win 3 in a row. He takes a break. So they win 2 in a row. Then they're working on the third one. And this is why they call it the last dance. It's their last year as a team, and they're trying to win this championship. Here's the thing: even though they've won 5 championships up to that point in 6 years,
Something like that.
they're still struggling, and they're still bickering with one another. They still have problems. They're still worried about the future. And so even though they're the greatest ball team in the world, and they are probably the most
All eyes
paid
are on
except for
them.
Scottie Pippen, all eyes are on them, and they're still going through everyday struggles. My point is this: be patient with what God is going to do with your life, right? It may take 7 years before you get to where you want to be. It may take you 7 years to grow your church. But once it happens, don't just be complacent, and don't be content, and don't just assume that life is great because you finally got that promotion, or life's going to be great because you finally got that church, you finally did this. No, because as soon as that happens, you're going to come up with, there's going to be other problems that you're going to have to deal with. How amazing is this? I was just watching this documentary, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, look at all these analogies that I can use.
Keep the faith.
Good job, Abram.
Appreciate
Wow.
it.
Brittany, I will have to tell you to ruin your mood here. Brittany, during the middle of that nice
Let's
analogy
just,
you had made, she had no idea who Scottie Pippen was.
oh my word, are you
I
serious?
have no idea.
Here's the thing.
Another one that's good at shooting free throws?
Here's the thing about Brittany. Brittany swears up and down, and I have not been able to confirm this by anybody. I've never spoken to a coach or a former teammate, but Brittany swears up and down she played basketball.
Oh my goodness. Guys, I not only played basketball,
I can vouch for her.
I
for
had the
basketball.
chance to play basketball collegiately. So I was pretty good.
But you didn't.
Not just basketball, but
But
softball.
you didn't.
Why though?
Now, here's the
Because
thing
it was just smarter for me.
But here's the thing that doesn't make any sense to me. You play basketball, and you have zero idea who Michael Jordan is.
I know who Michael Jordan is.
Sad
I didn't know he
day.
played baseball.
Then you don't know who
Did
Michael
anybody
Jordan
knows?
is.
Anybody knows?
It's part of his
Do
life.
you know who Pat Summitt is?
Yeah, she played
No,
Tennessee.
I
She
don't
was the coach for
know.
Tennessee.
I don't know her.
Yes,
I don't
that's
care
because I told
because
you, Andrew.
because I better not say it, but basketball is a male sport. Anyway, so we had.
That's
Moving
fine,
on.
because I beat him a million times, guys.
So here's the thing, and that's false as well. We
No.
actually did play basketball, and we actually beat you big time.
No, he would have
2
fouled
years
out.
ago. 2 years ago, we actually did.
He would have fouled out.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, we did. And
That's-
I actually won.
Wait, no.
Remember, I had my nice
you
jacket.
lost.
At my jacket, I won.
You went on the adult.
I
level, right?
carried the team.
All right,
You're out of breath.
Andrew can vouch for me.
Well, anyway, my
Did I
point
have
is this.
an offer to
I don't know how
play
you don't know those
college?
people. It's the greatest team in the world. Without, there would be no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. Everybody knows
That's a
that.
very good point.
Is that his coach?
No.
Let's move on, because this is getting, I'm trying to
Wrap
carry
up your
the show,
analogy,
and she's
just-
sitting there.
Tear it down. Anyway, wrap up your analogy.
But I was excited to be able to watch that documentary. I always
What's
get
it called again? The last.
Last Dance. I get it.
I believe it comes on Sunday.
No.
Again.
Yeah, it
This
does.
season's
They
been-
did the first 4 episodes, and they're doing them in like
Yeah, they're saying they're
segments.
re-airing it. Yeah. I need to watch it.
But I'm excited. Listen, I get excited about that kind of stuff. And even in the preaching world, we're not supposed to be competitive. They say don't be competitive, but there's a little bit of competition. All these pastors are watching each other, and they're all trying to see what everyone's doing. They're checking the outreach that they're doing, and everybody's kind of trying to one-up each other all the time, and it's in the church atmosphere. And so, yeah, I don't know. These kind of things pump me up because I would say I'm ruthless. Some would say I'm hard-headed as a pastor because I like things done a certain way. As far as not necessarily in the church, but the church in general, right? I feel like church should be running a certain way, that we should stop trying to. We're competing so much inside the church that we're just following trends, right? And so if that church down the street does praise and worship music, we got to do praise and worship music because we're losing all our people to the praise and worship church. You know, that's that all the time. Oh, that church has a young pastor. We need to get rid of our old pastor and bring somebody more youthful to compete against them. What?
There's no logic behind any of it.
There is no logic. What we need in our churches is called people. And that's not just on the pastor level. That's on every single level. We need called people.
All the way down.
All the way down. Your youth leaders need to be called, because if they're not, you run into issues. Your children directors need to be called. If not, you're going to run into issues.
Piano player.
Your greeters, your piano players, everybody needs to be called, because otherwise, A, you'll get burned out real quickly, and two, they don't have the same passion as someone who's actually called to do that position, right? Your greeters aren't going to greet very well if they're not called to be greeters, and it's hard to find people like that, but
I think we talked about this in our very first episode.
we might have.
What a nice throwback. But it's a very good point. It's very true. All the way down, it has to be 100%. Has to be everyone has to be on the same page. Has to be called for the one purpose.
Yes, because that's going to drive a church. Now, if your church is because I've seen a lot of pastors who aren't called, and they're miserable.
Still see.
Yeah, they're miserable. Their church is miserable, and everybody's just trying to play this game of, we're just trying to act like we're all supposed to be doing this because it's church, and it doesn't work that way.
I think people can tell too.
And
Definitely tell.
And I think during this pandemic, and I'd like to get your opinions on this, but I think during this pandemic, we're going to see the churches that, because I think people are going, you know what, life is too short to stay at the same church all the time and not get anything out of it. I think churches are going to see the people that are like, all right, cool, we're all in, like we're excited, we want to have church, or the people that are going to be like,
It's funny that you say that, because I just was having a conversation the other day with a lady that I know, and she was telling me how she loves how our church is doing outreach, and she sees this on Facebook all the time, and she was like, it really made her think about how she gives her money to a church that doesn't do anything with it.
wow.
And I was like,
Oh,
what?
my word.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's weird that you brought that up, but I was like, yeah, it's true.
I don't understand how anybody can justify that at all.
That's a good, very good point.
And it breaks my heart when pastors say, give, you're growing the kingdom of God, and the only thing that they're using that money for is salaries.
Mm-hmm.
Is that growing the kingdom of God?
No.
Are you kidding me? No. I heard one church, they said, here's what we're doing with your giving. We're going to give everybody a Zoom account. We're giving everybody a Zoom account on our staff and our volunteers. Now, what does that have to do with anything?
No, but I would be very upset if they.
The way that the Zoom account works, you can have one account and then distribute
Send
it.
out. Exactly.
But now that everybody's got an account, that's just a waste of money. But that's the thing. As a person that's tithing, do I want to know that my money is being used in a terrible way? This is why churches should be, and most of them are, very transparent about where that money goes. Mm-hmm. If they aren't being transparent, or
there's an issue,
or they're using it for something that doesn't make any sense, then you have the right as the congregation to stand up and say, whoa, why in the world is my money going to yard signs and Zoom accounts?
and it's sad to see when that doesn't happen, because
It breaks my heart.
it does break my heart. Because I'm like, what? Like, how long can you sit there and like?
Especially,
take it,
man, especially in a time like this where there's a pandemic, and there are people that are hungry. There are people that are starving. There are essential workers who are working, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and they don't have enough money to buy groceries themselves. Like, that's what breaks my heart. And this is what the church is here for. That's why we have been created, is we can sit there and help in these situations. This is the greatest time to be a church. It's the easiest time.
I think so.
We're not having to 100%. Search for outreach, or we can do outreach in any way, any form, and you just have to be a little bit creative about it. But piggyback off of other churches. Call other churches and say, hey, we're looking to do outreach. We don't know what we're doing. Can you help us?
And I think that's where people get caught up, because they don't want to ask for
Yes.
help, or they don't want. They think it's terrible if you are in but we're not in competition with one
No.
another. I would love it if we got a phone call every single day from every single church in the area,
We encourage it.
and conversations just being, because I would like to know what they're doing. If they're doing something that's working, I'd like to know. To me, I don't think it's competition. I think we get caught up in it too many times. It needs to be more. We're all in it for the same reason.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Well,
Anyway, let's take a quick break.
yeah, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I got a couple more topics I would like to discuss.
Perfect. All right. Don't go anywhere.
All right, we're in our second half of our podcasting.
Episode 7.
And episode 7, today's podcast is brought to you by, what is it?
Jonah's whale watching services.
For all of your whale watching needs, call Jonah. Or contact Brittany, who came up with that stupid sponsor today.
That was a pretty good one, actually.
Oh,
Pretty funny.
did you like it? Oh.
It was
Yeah.
all right.
Email us and let us know. Or
Yeah, you
leave
could
it in
email
a
us,
comment.
At preachingyoung, no caps, no space @gmail.com. So You can do that.
I tell you what, man. We have so many things are happening today around our church. We're trying to get things ready and planned for the future. May 24th, we're getting back into session as far as a church.
Exciting.
In-person worship, and so we're trying to get all those details together. We're trying to mulch today to make sure everything's in order, and those are things that we're really working on. But man, one thing that I really want to talk about in the second half is authenticity versus fake preaching. Authenticity versus
Big word.
fake preaching. There's, for whatever reason, there is so much fake preaching happening. And this is a podcast. Really, this podcast, if you were to ask me what this was all about, I would say young leadership, right? It's geared towards young leadership. Preaching young is we want to encourage young leaders who are trying to navigate through this world as well as us, because we are to some tips, advice, and encouragement. And so I would say this is something that's very dear to my heart: authenticity versus fake preaching. You can tell, especially nowadays, you can tell when somebody's being real and when someone's being fake.
Amen, brother.
You can tell. And I don't know what it is, but this doesn't even just pertain to preaching, but just in general. People respond to commercials, if you know what I'm saying, like ads. If you're authentic in an ad, more people are going to listen and buy your product than if you're fake. And it used to, I think, be the other way around, right? Folgers would have their fake commercials, Folgers coffee, or
I think so. I think it's flipped.
but you can't do that no more.
No, you can't.
I mean, you need
Well, now I think it's more like
you want real actors that are
that is what 90% of the commercials say.
like these
Real
are,
actors.
yeah,
not,
these are real,
or real people, not
paid.
actors.
Yeah, that's right, not paid.
Yeah, not paid. Yeah.
Or whatever the case is, because people are understanding that we want, in a world that is so noisy, in a world that is so filled with just constant things that are pulling our mind every
Wanna have something to
direction.
rely
The
on.
New York Times just came out with a study that said, I don't know if they just came out, it may have been a long time ago, but they said that the average American sees 5,000 advertisements in a day.
It's a lot. What do they calculate? Like everything? Like
Yeah, so like
Phones,
you're driving by billboards, your
signs.
phones, your computers, or whatever,
5,000
television
a day, That's a
shows.
lot.
I believe it.
I would too. It's a lot.
So your mind is always being tugged in different directions, and I think for us, we're starting to get to a point where we're like, okay, all these other things are fake. We want authenticity, and that's true with preaching. When I'm sitting there and I have to, especially with long-winded preachers, like if I have to sit through a 45-minute sermon, I can't. Even some.
I can already, I was gonna say I can already tell you. I don't care who it is preaching. Sitting through 45 minutes of anything
Yeah.
is not easy.
No, it's not. And there's some pastors that I love to death, but I can't listen to them for more than 20 minutes. But if you're gonna be fake as well, I'm turned off immediately.
You can tell. Almost instantly. The first couple words come out of their mouth, especially when you watch some of these people online. It's like you can almost tell. It's like it's almost like they're reading it, like via like what do they call those things?
Yeah, teleprompters.
Teleprompters.
Like teleprompter. But here's the thing, I'm okay if you read your sermon, right? I always write all of my sermons out,
Word for word.
word for word, so I know exactly what I'm saying. I rehearse it, and I don't mind looking down at my iPad when I preach, but I know that it's not. I write it in a way that it's
Speakable.
speakable.
You're not writing it as a book like you're reading
Right,
it.
right. But
Which also comes to delivery.
Yeah, that's what I was just getting ready to go to. I think people assume that they have to do something extravagant to make the Word of God stand out there or make people interested. But really, it's all about how you deliver it. I mean, the Word of God is exciting. So why do you have to sit there and be like so serious when you are delivering a message? I mean, I'm not a pastor, but I do work with the youth. And I know if I took a passage that we were teaching them about and just read it verbatim, didn't really have any excitement in my voice, that they would just be turned off like they were at school. I think it's all about how you deliver it, and the Word of God does not need us to make it interesting.
Amen. You're exactly
Couldn't have said it better
right.
myself.
You're exactly right.
Good job.
And the problem is, and this is what we see a lot in our writing sermons, is people want to, especially like with the holidays, Easter, Christmas, you preach those messages every year, right? So you're trying to find you want to be like, I don't know why they do this, but they want to be creative in how they want to give you something that's you never heard of. But it's like, no, it's the Easter story, right? It's the Christmas story. We know it, deliver it, and the person that's never walked into the church before that's there that day, it's the first time they're going to hear.
And we experienced. I mean, we just literally saw this firsthand a couple weeks ago, right? Easter. So
you have to be very. You're exactly right. You have to let God do the convicting. You have to let God do the work, and you just need to be consistent in. For me, I have to be consistent in how has this helped me in my life, right? The Bible has done so much for me in my life, God's Word and God in general, and so I need to express that when I'm preaching, right? That God has done so much for us. Thoughts?
Reminds me of a passage.
Go ahead.
Right here in Romans chapter 10.
Yep.
Verse 14, it says, how will they call on him who they have not believed? How will they believe in him with whom they have not heard? And how will they hear without a preacher? How will they preach unless they are sent? Just as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news of good things.
Very good. We have to be able, A, send people out. You have to be recognizing people that are called to be preachers. I met a pastor that was, I don't know, maybe 17, 18 years into a church. And one of my first questions was, who have you mentored to be another preacher? Like who is somebody that you took under your wings to become another preacher? And 18 years of preaching, he didn't have anybody. There was people that came and went, but there was nobody that he poured into and invested in
daily.
And it was so shocking to me because I'm like, how are you? I mean, that just like that verse says, how do people hear unless they have a preacher? And how do we have a preacher unless somebody sends them? Like if we're not investing in the next generation, if we're not, and I tell this with our youth all the time, right? Look for the students who could be leaders today, right? And then give them opportunity to lead. Like let them lead Bible studies, let them lead a group, let them come up with ideas. It's going to help you in a couple ways. One, kids are a lot more creative than we are, and if they feel like they're involved or they have ownership of something, a lot of times they'll take more time with it. They'll actually think it through a little bit more than we could even do. So you want to give people a reason to want to do stuff. So if you recognize, and one, you have to do it through prayer, but pray about it. Recognize those young people who are excited about church, excited about God, who other students listen to, and then you start putting them in leadership position. And here's what's going to happen, right? When you do that, they will start to mold and form and start to grow in their faith and in their leadership skills. And then when you go to another church, you can bring them with you, and they can become your youth leaders.
Sounds like us.
I know. That's a funny.
Not even that. If you go to leave, there's someone in place that can take over at the church they're at.
100%.
And I think one thing that I've noticed in working with the youth for a few years now, about 5 years now actually, is that it is a high turnover rate. I mean, the last church that we were at, I know I went through 4 youth pastors in like a 2-year span, which I think is crazy. And my thing to that is they're probably not called. So, I mean, picking a youth pastor is an important role you have to fill, so you better know where they're at.
And it's a lot easier to pick a youth leader who is already in the ranks.
Yeah.
That can just kind of
They know how it works. They know
how
what they want. They know what they like.
Yeah. They know the students.
Yeah.
And you're not having to go through like a trial period.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what the problem was. It was, all right, we need somebody. We bring somebody in. Let's give them a trial period. And doing a trial period with the youth is not like you need somebody that's like, no, I'm ready to pour into the youth right here, right now, and I'm going to invest in them, and I'm going to put my time and energy in them. If you're just doing trial periods, then that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to have a high turnover rate of just pumping them out. You're like, this one doesn't click. That one doesn't click. Well, the reason they don't click is because they're not even from the area.
Yeah. Which goes back to where you're even drawing from, where you've been taking, that's on.
Don't get me started on that,
That's
Andrew.
a whole other story.
Gosh, I hate
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry.
I know, man. Know your community. Know your community.
Yeah.
It's very important to know your community because a lot of people don't.
Chain fact.
And then I guess this is something else because that's not to say that everybody has a different preaching style or teaching style. Everyone there are some preachers that are called to preach, right? Preach. There's some people that are called to be a pastor. The difference, preacher's going to preach to the congregation, the pastor's going to invest and be the shepherd to the flock, right? There's going to be people that can teach. There's going to be people that can shout. There's going to be people that are quiet. I mean, good. So, as a pastor, you know, you have to know, or a teacher or youth leader, whatever it is, you have to know what you are, right? I never understood, like, there's some, I'll tell you this, John MacArthur, if you watch him, he is not exciting. He is not, he's not going to sit there and get excited and yell and scream or preach to you. He's teaching the Bible, and he's great at it. And he does not try to be anything else, because he goes, this is what I am. I'm going to teach you the Bible. I'm going to do it this way. And people flock to his church because it's John MacArthur. Like, it's authentic. It's him.
He's not faking it.
He's not faking it.
Trying to be a mega church
Right.
pastor or whatever.
Now, it blows my mind, because I see some of these pastors that they'll try to be a John MacArthur. They'll try to act like they're serious and they're going to teach, and then they'll try to throw in a joke. And it's like, well, hold on. You're not funny, right? And you're trying to be serious all the time. So either stay serious and don't worry about the jokes, or if you're a funny person and jokes are how you connect with people, then tell jokes. But the whole sermon should be kind of uplifting. The whole sermon should be so that when you deliver that joke, it's not like an off thing. It's not like whoa, where'd that come? That was like a weird thing. It really should flow with the whole sermon.
The point of all of this, I think, is being authentic and being who you are. Because the way I look at it, I know a couple pastors off the top of my head that I can think that when they are preaching, it's like a completely different person when they're not preaching, which is, it's weird, I think.
Yeah.
But I think people want like authentic from them. Like, people expect them to be who they are outside of it, and
Yes.
when they are preaching, they expect that to be the same person.
It's shocking when it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It's shocking when you go, and I know people that I'm like, that I don't like their personality, but then you hear them preach, you're like, wow, man,
Same thing.
nice guy.
Same thing. Yeah.
But then then you meet them as soon as the church is over, and they're like, they don't even
Won't
talk to you. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, hold on now, that doesn't make any sense. So those are very interesting things. You're exactly right. Don't be someone you're not, right? If God has called you to preach, preach with all your heart. If God called you to teach, teach. Now here's the issue that you're going to run into. If God's called you to teach, does that mean you should be a pastor? Or should you be a teaching pastor? Or should you be a Sunday school teacher? I mean, just because he's called you to teach, does that mean you have to be up in front of a pulpit on Sunday mornings? No, it does not. I think that's where we get in an issue, is because we think titles are everything in this world. Titles are everything. We want the highest title. And mainly, it's funny because a lot of these people want titles because of a high school girlfriend that broke up with them and said that you never amount to anything. And so they're like, I'm going to be somebody. That not only hurts you, it not only hurts the church, it hurts your witness. And God can use anybody for anything. But, I really want to encourage people to do what you're called to do and pour your energy into that. And God will bless that way more, right? Because I know some pastors are just depressed, they're upset, they are exhausted. And a lot of it is not because they're doing a bad job. It's because they're just not called for that position or that place or that.
Because like Brittany said earlier, she said the gospel is exciting.
Yes.
What Jesus has done in my life specifically is exciting stuff. So I don't know how it can be, depending on the way, that you feel it has to be displayed or whatever. But I feel like the gospel is exciting. It's an exciting thing.
And we have a member at our church right now who used to be a pastor. And he said he actually was at a church. He was invested in the church. He loved that church like a family. And he said he stayed there 5 years too long. 5 years too long, because he said, he was trying to hang on to this, I'm supposed to be at this church. And God wasn't calling him to that church. God was not calling him there. But he felt like he had to be there because he was invested, he loved them. And what happened was he stayed there so long that he ended up burning a lot of bridges. He ended up making people even more angry with him. And now, half of them, it's just, you burn those relationships. When, in fact, if you would just do what God's calling you to do, and don't be stuck in a place. Don't say, just because, this church is where my grandma stayed, or this church is where God was my first pastor job, whatever the case is. Don't be stuck there just because of stupid reasons. If God's calling you somewhere else, go somewhere else. If God's calling you to do something, do something. If God's calling you to stay there, stay there. But don't try to tell God what He wants you to do in your life.
He's going to win.
Yes, He's going to win. And it's going to, like, you're going to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Don't stay at church and hurt people.
And it's not something you keep a secret either.
No.
Like, I think, I don't know how many times you said it, but you've said anytime that you're not called to Trinity. You're called to be a follower of God.
Yeah, I'm called to preach.
Called to preach. So wherever He leads you, you're going to go. If that means it's here
If Trinity kicked me out tomorrow and said, Abram, we don't like how you're doing stuff, then I'll be preaching on the street.
Yeah.
Because that's how I do. Because I'm not called to be a pastor at Trinity. I'm called to be a preacher. I'm called to be a follower of Christ.
And that's very important. There's separation that's very important, I think, there.
And here's the thing, like, I can't imagine this season that we're in being anywhere else, but I couldn't imagine another pastor being at Trinity during this season, right? Like God, like this is not like if they would have hung on to other pastors, Trinity would not be here right now in this moment. And I'm gonna tell you this much: financially, they probably wouldn't even survived at this point, especially through this pandemic. So God has placed us in this moment for exactly this reason, and that's the kind of stuff that is confirming for us, that God is still working, that God is still moving puzzle pieces, and that God is placing people, and us especially, in the right spot at the right time.
Just reaching more people.
Now, final thoughts. And I want to hear your opinions on this, because here's why I hate this virus. Okay, I don't know. Some days I think that the government is on my side and telling me that, hey, Abram, if you wear a mask and whatever and protect yourself, everything's good. And then some days I'm going, oh, the government's going to try to kill me. And so one of the things I don't like about this thing, and I need to fix that camera before it tilts over.
Okay.
One of the things I hate about this virus is it's creating people to vilify one another.
Mm.
Do you think that? Do you feel that way?
I think we're already seeing it.
At first, it was social distancing was very. Thank you. We had our cameras velcroed on not very well.
Just tilt your head a little bit. It'll come straight.
Yeah. But when this thing first started, social distancing was a very popular thing, and everybody was saying social distance, stay your distance, social distance, social distance. Then it was stay home. Then they go, okay, stay home, stay home, stay home, stay home. And people were, if you weren't home, people were taking pictures of you, posting on Facebook,
calling cops
and blasting you. And then now they're in Kentucky. They're going to mandate us wearing masks on May 11th. And so now I guarantee you, and they're already doing it. We talked about that earlier before the podcast started. They're already starting to do this, but we're going to see it to an unbelievable degree, is mask shaming. People are going to start shaming people for the mask that they're wearing. That's not appropriate. That doesn't work. You don't have a filter in there. That's not an N95. I mean, it's going to get crazy. And I hate it because it's causing more division in our country and really with people in our communities, because people are yelling at each other and going, and everyone wants to be, I love this is my favorite, everyone wants to be the most vocal person on Facebook about it. I'm going to wear my mask because I want to save lives. Then it's like, well, Nancy, I just saw you at the store yesterday and you didn't have a mask on. So don't sit there and try to be all high and mighty on your throne.
Or the best part is when they have their mask on, but it's not covering their nose.
Well,
You ever seen that?
Or they're sitting there knocking on your door trying to get inside your church, trying to talk to you. And it's like, well, hold on. It's like those are things that you have to be aware of. Like people that are, and I'll say this too. I know adults that are saying, I have not even, I'm not seeing my family. I'm not. But then it's like, but you are. Like I've talked to your family members. They're seeing you all the time. People are just. It's very interesting that we're putting a face on Facebook. We're putting our own little mask on Facebook. How cool is that? What a cool analogy. We're putting our own little mask on Facebook, and we're acting like, we're gonna be the ones that are gonna save a lot. But then we're the ones that are touching everything and only we're using gloves that we touch the thing in the grocery store, then we use the same gloves to check out. We use the same gloves to touch our money. We use the same gloves to touch our steering wheel. And in order to not, you have to be in a bubble in order to not catch a virus. You have to
forget coronavirus. Forget all this that happened before this happened. I mean, not coming in contact with germs was like
It's impossible.
impossible. You can't not do it. I mean, like
If you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
You could put as much stuff on you as you want. You could wear a mask all day. But if I wear a mask and I touch something that has the coronavirus, and I go to take off that mask, and I touch my ear and I touch my mouth, wow, it defeats the purpose.
And my thing is, there's something that my mom has always told me since I was a little girl. All you can do is worry about yourself.
Yes.
And I wish other people would do that right now. Nobody cares about Brittany Fornash's opinion on Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram. Nobody cares.
Well-
And I don't care about anybody else's. You can only worry about
control
yourself.
the things you can control. I believe you
Yes.
said that in a sermon.
President Donald Trump is not going to change his mind
Exactly.
because you put on Facebook that you didn't like something he said.
Do you
The
want-
governor,
yeah,
Bashir,
governor,
is
yeah.
not going to change his mind because you go, oh, well, governor, I think we shouldn't wear, like, no, he doesn't care. And so nobody has ever changed their mind. So what we need to do is this, we need to pray for people. We need to say, instead of us getting on Facebook and trying to give our opinions and starting arguments, which the Bible says we shouldn't be doing, we need to get on there and we just need to be praying for people that God will put leadership's the right decision for leadership, like that he'll tell them what to do, that he'll change people's minds how they need to be changed. But you're exactly right. We need to stay in our own lanes. Here's the thing about it, and I tell my wife this all the time, instead of seeing what the media is telling us that, the hospitals are overrun, that, that there's no food in the grocery stores, instead of listening to that and being afraid, use your own eyes. Because my wife works at a hospital. We have to get groceries. So are we seeing those things? Like when she goes to the hospital, is the hospital overran? No. When you go to the grocery store empty? No. Especially here locally, Wyatt's Super Value. They're not a sponsor yet, but they will be. They're stocked all the time. They're doing a great job stocking it.
And there's a whole bunch of people there.
Yeah, so use your own eyes. Are you seeing the world collapsing around you? No. And I've been saying this ever since, even with politics, because politics has been so crazy the last few years. Because when I used to work where Andrew works now, I would drive up to Cleveland, and I would literally go from Kentucky, past Cincinnati, past Columbus to Cleveland. Nobody was upset. Nobody was yelling at each other. Nobody was sitting there going, I'm a liberal, you're a conservative, and we can't talk to each other. That was not happening. It doesn't happen. Everybody was cordial. Everybody's talking to each other. Everybody's checking in on one another. It's only on the media that things are going nuts. It's only, I'll tell you this much. The Mercy Ship, USNS Comfort.
Is that what the name was?
I think it was.
Interesting.
Who had to go to New York to help out with the overflow because the hospitals were so overran. Guess what? It left yesterday.
Empty.
It left because they didn't have that many patients. So you tell me how crazy these hospitals are being overran. Because the Mercy Ship, which holds an extra 1,000 people, 1,000 beds, left because it wasn't being used. You tell me, okay? Now I'm gonna tell you something else about this Mercy Ship that's very interesting to you, because I've been watching this. I've been watching this documentary on the Mercy Ships. In Africa, they only go to Africa once every 10 years.
Yeah, you said like a couple years. Yeah.
And when they're there for a full year, and they have to turn away patients who, if they're just too far along, or if they have to come back a million times, they just don't have time for them. So they literally have to be very picky that they only are going to do one surgery, and if you have to have a second surgery, you have to wait 10 years for your tumor to grow back, and they'll come back in 10 years and do it. So how many people in a third world country did not get care because they needed that ship in New York because of what the media said? How many people did not get the care of that hospital, which is free medical care for these third world countries? How many people didn't get that because they were sitting there in New York? And that is every single time, right? That's because there was another Mercy ship in L.A. I haven't heard about that
I
one.
didn't hear about this.
Yeah, but so 2 Mercy ships are on the coast, and they're not being used.
Empty. Sent back.
You know how frustrating that is? And I really hate it. So don't vilify people. Don't vilify people who's not wearing a mask. Because here's the other thing. We don't know what medical disabilities people have, right? Some people have asthma. They can't have a mask on. Some people, there's a million things They have breathing problems. They have COPD. They are having a hard time breathing enough as it is. Put a mask over their face. So don't vilify people because they're not wearing a mask. Don't vilify people because it's not the same mask that you're wearing. Don't vilify people because they're trying to have church. Don't vilify people because there's people that are lonely and they need to get out. Don't vilify. Don't vilify people that are parked in a circle with their friends trying to talk to each other at social distancing. We have to stop vilifying people. We're going to get through this together, is what the governor keeps telling us. But I don't see anybody in this together, man.
Control what you
I
can
agree.
control. Stay in your own lane.
Same with churches.
It's the best way to put it.
You
We've been
take
saying
care
this
of
for a
your
while.
church, I'll take care of my church. If you need something, call me. I'll be there for you in a heartbeat. But don't worry about us. We won't worry about you guys. Stay in
That's a
your
good way to
lane.
put it.
That's my final thought.
Good.
What I hate about the virus. I'm going to start doing that every week.
That's a long rant.
My final thought about what I hate about the virus.
Got anything, Brittany?
Anything, Brittany?
I think that
This
was it.
Sunday,
That was pretty good.
10:30. Make sure you're on Facebook Live or YouTube in the afternoon for our third and final week of History Maker.
Be
And we're going to be starting on Monday, the Blessed and Essential Worker. I need to get that.
Blessings.
Blessed and Essential Worker Week. That'll be Monday through Saturday.
Participate with us.
And then we're going to do a 2-week series. I don't know what that is yet. It'll be a 2-week series. And then May 24th, we'll be back live in session.
And
I'm
if you
excited.
do participate with us, send us what you did in an email.
And you don't, go ahead.
Reaching Young, no caps, no spaces, at gmail.com.
And you don't have to come to church on May 24th. You can still watch church online.
Because guess what? We still do online
Yeah, we'll
service.
still have online service.
Always have.
It'll be at 11 that day, but we will have online service. And don't feel obligated.
I like that.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Well-
I'm excited to get back. Now we've got a date. I'm excited.
We have a date. I'm excited too. It's going to look a lot different, but it's going to be exciting.
Anyway, hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you want to be a sponsor of our show, reach out to us.
All right, guys. I'm Brittany.
Wait, that's supposed to start over.
I'm Abram.
I'm Andrew.
And this is Preaching Young. Preaching Young.
We're out.